What's going on? This is Jeremy from Rockstar Youth Ministry, a site, a channel dedicated for you to lead youth effectively and rock on. It's all about rocking on and grooving and moving of how you do effective youth ministry. Today we're going to be talking about strategic decision making in youth ministry. How do you decide what you do? Who influences you? What's your decision-making models? How often are you making decisions every day? Are you confident in them? Are you insecure? Today we're going to hit that. I want to introduce you to a fighter pilot named John Boyd. I highly recommend this book. Boyd, the fighter pilot who changed the art of war. Innovative thinker. Obviously knew how to press the envelope well. I'm going to put a link to this book in the description. But John Boyd is a deceased Air Force colonel, elite fighter pilot, Pentagon consultant, and top military strategist who developed this idea of the OODA loop. Say that 4 times. OODA loop. We're going to be talking about this OODA loop and how it relates and connects decision making. OODA loop is where one observes what the enemy is doing, becomes oriented to the enemy action, makes a quick decision, and then takes action. John said, a pilot can be too cautious, he can be too methodical, he reads, memorizes the specifications, knows the boundaries of the performance envelope, and is careful never to nudge up against the performance limits. But Boyd did not believe in performance specs and had no fear of the aircraft, which is how and why Boyd created this OODA loop, because he felt that the fighter pilot needed to make very quick strategic decisions in very uncertain, complex environments. And how do you make good, effective, winning decisions? The OODA loop. The OODA loop is an acronym that identifies the 4 steps of decision making: observe, orient, decide, act. Let's go through it. Step 1, observe. This is the first step. You're gathering data on what's occurring in the environment. You evaluate past results. This is the creation of data. This is the art, if you will. The art is observing, your situational awareness. You're looking, you're observing what is kind of going all on in your environment. So you're taking notes. Number 2, you orientate. I can't say that word. Orientation. You find those inconsistencies. This is where you kind of play the devil's advocate. Socratic method. You start being a contrarian. You start questioning. You start challenging assumptions. Because the goal of this step is to predict outcomes. So you take that observed data, the art, if you will, and you give it meaning. You interpret the data, right? So this is now kind of the science behind. You find those patterns. What's been occurring? Why is that? Causality. There's always a cause and correlation for things that are happening. The whys and the hows, the whats. So look at those things, find those inconsistencies, and then you got to decide. This is where you consciously have to make a decision based off the art and the science. You take that art and the science to arrive at your decision, and then you act, then you do, right? So it's very quick 4 steps, which is going to get you here in the OODA loop. Here's kind of more of a deeper sense of what the OODA loop is. You observe, right? You move through this. The thing is about efficiency and fast. It's not about how fast you move, but it's how fast you can arrive at that 3rd step, decide. There's those unfolding circumstances, uncertainty, probably a lot of anxiety. You take that data, you interpret it, you give it meaning based off of your analysis, your previous experience, that new information that you've had. Now you decide, there's your hypothesis, the what if, right? And then you move and you groove, make that decision. That's the thing, you gotta move, right? You have to do that. Don't be worried about failure, right? Don't fear, as he said, but trust. Boyd said that this loop can be applied to all uncertain contexts. I don't know about you, but there are many problems in our youth ministries, right? So I really strongly believe this loop can be applied to youth ministry, and especially how we make our decisions. So here's 3 ways the loop can be applied to the youth ministry. 1, trust your gut. Intuition. right? Confidence in what you're feeling, you're sensing. If you've done this enough, right? Like you kind of build that intuition muscle. You know what things smell like and hear and feel like. So trust your gut. It's okay. Trust it. You know, in the spiritual realm, that's that spirit prompting of what it is. Just kind of move. Get that first, observe, right? If you've had enough experience observing, then you know how to orientation, then decision, then action. Make time to orientate. This is thinking, right? I talk a lot about thinking, making time to think. Think about that data. Think about the art. Give it meaning, interpretation of what you're going to do and why. Third, hunt that sacred cow. This is where innovation happens, right? In times of uncertainty comes innovation, creativity. Boyd said you have to challenge all assumptions. So look at all those assumptions in your youth ministry right now. What are you assuming about students? What are you assuming about your programming? What are you assuming about your leadership? What are you assuming about your training? How can you make better decisions in all those different categories of youth ministry, and you hunt that down? Because once you start to hunt things down and you make decisions, you begin to innovate, that is where you're going to have the competitive edge. That's where you're going to start getting a lot of momentum, because it's things that have been kind of on the shelf that are maybe, we've always done it this way. Start questioning that and just flip it. Experimentation, right? You got to love youth ministry. It's just one big experiment. So like always, keep grinding and keep getting after it.